Welcome back to Ben Salutes, and when I was a kid, snow couldn't kill me. I think now would be a good time to talk about a cartoon that I am in love with. A cozy little show that's probably the main reason I have a Netflix account. Well, that and Glow. Watch Glow, people. I don't care if you ain't into wrestling, watch Glow! This is a little cartoon that's been the talk of the internet since its debut in the fall of 2018. It's about time for this show to get the BENTHELOONey treatment. It's none other than Hilda. Created by Luke Pearson, based on his graphic novels, the show follows a little British girl living in a modern world where humans coexist with magical creatures. With a love for exploring and animals, Hilda tries to adjust to life in a new city, while also running from monsters. Seems straightforward enough and... yeah, it pretty much is. Episodes typically focus on Hilda, and sometimes her friends, facing a problem that happens to have a supernatural twist to it. I've heard a lot of people compare this to Adventure Time and Gravity Falls, and I think that's an unfair comparison because people might go in expecting it to be funny and wacky like those shows are. This cartoon is less about being silly and more about throwing you in the world and letting you experience it as the characters do. Sure, there is humor in this show, but it's a British style that's very bantery and more about subtle wordplay rather than over-the-top randomness of American cartoons. So people might go in expecting British Adventure Time or Gravity Falls and be disappointed. So I'm going to try to put you in the proper mood to have for this show before you check it out, if you haven't already, which is statistically impossible by this point. Other characters include Hilda's mom Joanna, probably the youngest looking MILF I've ever seen, Hilda's friend Frida, a bookworm workaholic, and David, a timid and fragile little twink who my friend Trent said looks like Charlie Brown if he had hair. Woodman, which sounds like a porno superhero, who's a deadpan man made of wood who sometimes helps Hilda on her adventures, and Alfor, a little elf who lives with Hilda. I can only speak for myself, but the appeal of Hilda for me is how much I relate to it. I see a lot of myself in Hilda, as I grew up in the country, surrounded by wilderness, and there would be days I'd just set off and explore. Me being an animal lover just like her is quite the similarity as well. And just like her, there was a time I had to move away from my hometown to adjust to life in the big city far from where I was comfortable. Some people might complain this moving out of your hometown storyline is done too much, but maybe that's just because it's so relatable and happens all the time. And as for the setting, I love when shows or movies don't hammer all the details of how the world works in your head, the point where you say, "Alright, I get it, move on already!" But Hilda ain't like that. Like I said, it just establishes that the modern world has magical creatures that exist and people are alright with that. It throws you in and lets you see how it all works yourself, as a good story should. So far, there's only one season of the show, and it really hasn't had time to be super dark and serious, like a lot of kids' cartoons tend to get as they go along. However, it does have a couple of episodes that hit pretty close to home for me. One called the Nisa deals with creatures who live in people's homes, and they get kicked out if they do something bad, so they just sit on the sidewalk looking all dirty and sad. It's a pretty subtle examination of homelessness that takes directions you wouldn't expect, and best of all, doesn't feel preachy and lets you come to your own conclusions based on the little nuggets it leaves for you. Another episode I love is The House in the Woods, where Hilda and Woodman end up stuck in a house that can give them anything they want. Hilda can wish for all the material things in the world, but what she wants most is to just be back home with her mom and friends. It's true what they say, you can buy anything you want in the world, but experiencing the love you have with friends and family is not something you can buy in a store. Yeah, I don't care if it's cheesy, it's a good message, doggone it. There's also a wall in the town of Trollberg that keeps trolls out. I wonder what that's an allegory for. But I'd say my favorite episode of the series so far is the Tide Mice. Hilda tries to help her mom and David catch lucky breaks by using spells called Tide Mice, but the spell has a loophole that Hilda didn't read all the way through. I guess what I love about this episode is that Hilda doesn't learn that sometimes friends' talents aren't going to be recognized, or that her mom can't be happy working a regular job instead of doing something art-related, but she simply just should have read the fine print. Most people would probably see that as a cop-out, but personally, I like how it leaves the moral open-ended to where you can make your own conclusions related to it. The fact Joanna has to work at a hardware store because she can't find design work in the city is something that I'm sure any artist can relate to. While this show is appropriate for kids, I think it takes an adult who's gone through life experiences to really appreciate all the emotional weight the show is going for. As far as standard things go, the animation and voice acting are top-notch, and proof that Netflix is a definite competitor for the cable networks when it comes to quality animated shows. Also, Hilda has one of the cutest voices ever. Something about British accents, don't know what it is. I just want to hug her so badly every time she talks. I guess the main problem I have with this show is waiting for new episodes, dagnabbit. By the time season 2 comes around, the show will be 2 years old already. Say what you want about Gravity Falls, at least they spread new episodes out. But hey, know what? I don't mind. I'd rather the crew take their time to make new episodes great than rush them out to meet demand. And hey, a movie is in the works as well. That's something to look forward to. There's going to be plenty of Hilda material in the future, and I'm going to be there to soak it all in. This series ain't trying to wow you with anything spectacular or make you question the world and all that deep artsy-fartsy bullcrap. It is what it is, and it does a heck of a job at it. While some people who are used to more fast-paced and wacky cartoons might be bored by this show or not see the appeal, I don't blame them, but it's a cozy little show that you can fall in love with on a rainy day all wrapped up in a blanket drinking hot chocolate. I guess that's the perfect word to describe it. Comfortable. No raunchy jokes, no mind-blowing action, no dark storylines. Just a cute little show about a little British girl exploring the world full of magical creatures. After life gets you down and adult responsibilities get a little overwhelming, I can't think of a better way to calm back down and enjoy the finer things than watching Hilda. Well, time to binge watch the show a 27th time.